There's nothing like the thrill of watching a live hockey game. The chill of the ice, the roar of the crowd, and the excitement when your team scores. I've been using Game Time to grab tickets, and it's not just for sports. They've got concerts, comedy shows, and more. With their new Game Time Picks feature, finding the perfect seats has never been easier. I found an incredible super deal for an upcoming Habs game, and the app even shows you the seat view before you buy. It's fast and simple. Game Time Picks curates the best options for you with all-in pricing to avoid surprise fees. Plus, their lowest price guarantee means you get 110% of the difference if you find a better deal. Game Time Picks makes it easy to find and save on tickets for any event, and their customer service policy is the most flexible out there. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Episode 93 of the Habs Culture podcast. My name is Justin Schwartz, alongside Liam Baum. We are back after another 2 Montreal Canadiens games played. On Saturday night, they took on the Ottawa Senators in Montreal, a huge 4-1 victory, followed by a loss in Montreal against Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins, 6-3 with an empty net goal. So 1 win, 1 loss. We're adding on to a tally of a loss to the Bruins, a win against the Leafs, and then you've got a win against the Sens and a loss against the Pens. So that's at a record of 2-2 right there. 2-2. Three games against Atlantic teams, 1 against a Metro team. So obviously a lot of, in-conference play right there. I think that's usually how it is to start the season. Very interesting nonetheless. Liam, I'm going to just get it going right away because I think what we wanted to do today is talk about the last 2 games more specifically and kind of split it up into, the first game being the Sens game, the second game being the Pens game. So we'll start off with the Sens game. I'll bring that up on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. The Canadiens win 4-1. And it was a very, very, very strong performance from Samuel Montembeault. He follows up the Caden Primo disaster in Boston with 1 goal against, a .960 save percentage with 1 goal against. Liam, Sam Montembeault, we'll get to the Pens game after this one, but through 2 starts for Montembeault, give me your thoughts.
Overall, it's just been consistent play, and I think that's what the Canadiens have been looking for in a goalie for the last 3-4 years. So it's obviously bright to see a goalie do well, and I think he's going to be the reason why the Canadiens are able to stay in games. I felt like this game, he was tested a little bit less than the previous game against the Leafs. Obviously, the Leafs had 47 shots, but Montembeault's been good. He's standing on his head. I mean, right now he's rocking a .942 save percentage on the year after the Penguins game, of course, and a 2 GAA. So I think it's a great start for Montembeault. Hopefully he can keep it up. And again, it's all about the consistency. He's shown that he can be a very, maybe not consistent goalie, but good goalie when it matters. And he's able to beat the good teams. So if he's able to string together a few wins every now and then, or more, even more than every now and then, but pretty often, then I think he's going to really solidify his spot as the number 1 here.
No doubt. I think, look, we're obviously early on in the season, and I think it's not fair to say that, Primo is done in Montreal per se, but I think that over the last few years, and we've talked about this at length, Montembeault is 100% proven that he can be the number 1 during this period in time for the Canadiens. I know that they're kind of in this transition period where they're still in the rebuild, but they're, things are starting to materialize. We'll get into some of those players later, the guys that are coming up, the guys that are making impacts. But I think if there's one thing that's kind of stood out to me, and the conversation that I've had with a couple people, is Montembeault to me is showing more and more that he can be a goalie on a winning team. Because I think if there's one consistent over the last few years in the NHL, is that to win a Stanley Cup, you don't need, and we've talked about this, you don't need an all-star goalie. You just need a hot goalie at the time. I guess my point is more that to win a cup, you don't necessarily need to have an all-star goalie. I think Monty is proving that he's solid enough. He's 27, turning 28 at the end of this month, he's kind of entering that prime for a goalie. He's gotten increasingly better from a statistical standpoint over the last 3 years with the Canadiens, which is very impressive considering how bad the Canadiens have been from a standings perspective. And I'm just thinking that, if this team continues to build up a solid decor in front of him, continues to build up, their offensive, their 12 forwards, then we're looking at a Monty that can, be solid enough to take this team as far as he wants to let them.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if we're looking at the past Stanley Cup winners or even the teams in the finals, you have Aiden Hill was a career backup till he came to Vegas. He was in the AHL the year before that. So he comes in, wins a Stanley Cup. Take a look at Binnington. Binnington comes in, random goalie comes in, wins the cup. Matt Murray, even if you want to look at it, like all it takes is a hot goalie to win a cup. But I think a good decor is usually the reason why teams have so much success. So I feel like the Canadiens are building that up right now. Obviously, there's been issues with the decor in general so far this year, but as these players continue to progress, I feel like that's going to get much better, and Montembeault is very much reliable to carry the load and also keep the Canadiens in games when they need to be, because he's been making huge saves every game. So I feel like he's only getting better at this point, and he's really just proving that he's a solid goalie in this league.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm very happy to see that. I think that moving off of Allen last year really allowed him to get into a groove, get into a rhythm, allow Primo to get the backup reps in a sense, or give him, a few more starts to see what he's worth. But it also enabled Monty in a sense to give him that closure that, hey, like, they believe in me. I'm going to get the majority of the starts here. I know how to mentally prepare for these games from here on out, and I'm going to try and do my best to give this Montreal Canadiens team the best chance to win night in and night out. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy with his performance so far. We'll get into the Pens game soon, and not that he played bad by any means, but obviously it was a different outcome versus the Sens game. But we'll get into the second topic of conversation here. Cole Caufield, 2 goals against the Sens, 4 goals at that point in time, 4 goals in 3 games. Looking like there's a little bit more of a jump in his step. His release is just wicked. I mean, the first goal was on a platter, right back door. You can't make a mistake on that one. But the second goal in that game against the Sens was a thing of beauty. I mean, I don't know how you pick that corner. I don't know how the puck gets released that quickly. But, I mean, that's just the Cole Caufield that we love and know, to be honest with you. Like, these flashes have been consistent throughout his, this is his 5th season. So they've been consistent over the last few years. And I think that there's a legitimate conversation to be had about him being that impact player on this first line that will be a difference maker in games, because there's not many other guys on this team that have the touch and the ability to score goals at will like he can. And I'm happy that he's kind of, beat the narrative of, oh, he's only a skill guy. He's only good in the 3-on-3 setting. He's only good when he's given time and space. That's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true whatsoever. And I think that's been proven through 4 games now.
Yeah, it's a really hot start. Obviously, it's just 3 games, but just comparing how he's been playing to last year, it's just like a completely different player. He had a lot of shots last year, but it just seemed like the quality of the shot wasn't as good as it could have been. So it's really good to see right now. The one thing I'm going to bring up that I feel like a lot of Habs fans see and are frustrated with is the fact that not just Caufield, but none of our players take one-timers. And that really hurts the Canadiens on the power play. And when you have Caufield on the left side, who every single time is taking a fake 1T, defense starts to read that. And it seems like the power play is going to be hurt if they can't figure out how to take one-timers, because that cross-seam pass is it should be the number one option. And that's what the Canadiens have struggled with for so many years. They just can't figure it out. So I don't know if that's a problem still, maybe coming back from the shoulder injury or whatever that was. I don't know. But I know Caufield's able to take 1Ts, because in that first season, he was taking one-timers. And the same goes for a guy like Hutson, who we're going to talk about soon. It's just the fact that both, there's just a ton of guys who aren't taking one-timers, and I feel like that could hinder the overall power play just in general, although it's performing right now. So we'll see how that develops. But I just feel like always faking the 1C, obviously it's a great move. It kind of hurts the Canadians in a way, if you know what I mean.
No, I do. And I think that it's been a move, or like it's something that obviously we've seen all over Twitter that Martin St. Louis showed him. It's an effective move, but it becomes less and less effective the more you use it and the more, you just become predictable. And I'm not saying that Caufield's a predictable player. I'm saying that in that specific scenario, it's a predictable move. And I think that I completely agree with you where if there's an open spot in the defense and, Matheson's willing to move the puck quick enough to get to Caufield for the one-timer, just let it rip. Just let it rip. I also think that on this same topic of the power play, actually, you know what? We'll get to that after. But what I was going to say about Caufield is that he has 4 goals on 14 shots with about a 28.5 shooting percentage, which is ridiculously high. He won't maintain that shooting percentage, obviously. But it is nice to know that we know that goal scorers in the NHL are streaky, and Cole Caufield is a streaky goal scorer. And with that being said, my question to you is, he's at 4 goals in 4 games right now through 10. Do you think he reaches 8 goals in 10 games?
I mean, considering his shooting percentage right now, I mean, you got to think so. So I'm going to say yes. Considering also, like, I know we're going to get into it, but considering the power play is working so well, I really do see an opportunity for him to do that. And I just wanted to calculate it for jokes, but you said he was shooting at 28% right now? That's his shooting percentage. If he were to take the same amount of shots as last year, I believe it was 316. So I'll just say 315. He'd be on pace for 88 goals. So even if you cut that in half, if you give him a 14% shooting percentage, he's still scoring 40 plus goals. So I feel like that's a very bright spot for the Habs right now.
No, it is. It is. And it's something that I think we lack so much. And, if we're really going to sit here and say we're going to depend on Suzuki to score 33 or 34 goals again, not that he's incapable of doing so. It's just that that's not Suzuki's MO. That's not his style. He could put pucks in the net, but he's that two-way playmaker, in my opinion. And I think that he does have that goal scoring touch. But when you have a guy like Cole Caufield who's scoring at a rate like that, complemented by guys like Suzuki and Slav and Dach and hopefully Line at one point, you're really setting yourself up for that perfect complementary player, put it that way.
Yep.
And I was also going to say quickly on the power play, one thing that's getting me really annoyed, if there's one thing, is I feel like Dach is really forcing the pass to the high slot. Like, he's really trying to get it, because sometimes he'll be on the right half wall, and like when they're really setting up and Suzuki will shift more to the bumper. It depends on the situation, right? But Suzuki will really back up closer to the blue line than to the goal line. And he'll try and get it up there for a shot with traffic, which I think is a great play, but it almost seems forced, and it does kill, the momentum of the power play when it gets intercepted. And it is a predictable play sometimes.
Yeah. No, I think that on top of the Caufield fake 1Ts were the things I noticed the most, just in terms of yesterday, how the power play was working. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I just feel like Dach just forces passes overall. He tries to put it in the right spots. It's just, he needs to realize when it's the right, when the window opens, if you want to say. So I did notice that, but it definitely does hurt because their break out and break into the zone, the offensive zone, is also so weak. On the second unit, I feel like Newhook does it the best. He just turns on the jets and throws it in.
He's a more skilled and less big version of Anderson. That's what Newhook straight line speed is top tier.
Yeah,
it's top tier. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the soft skills to complement it all the time consistently. I like Newhook, but anyway, we'll get into that second line soon, because there is a lack of production from that second line, which is worrisome in a sense when you're just depending on, one line and then the odd goal from the bottom or middle six. But we'll get to the third topic on this first game still in the Sens game. And it will translate to the second game because this guy's hard to not talk about, to be honest. Lane Hutson. 4 assists, 4 points, 4 games. He had his worst defensive performance against the Pens last night, but we'll get to that after. Before that, he was rocking an 100% goals on ice percentage, meaning that he was on for only Canadiens goals and no goals against. So beating the narrative that he's bad defensively. And I think that's obviously a narrative that was just created because of the fact that he's 5'10 and undersized for a defenseman and is so offensively gifted. But the truth of the matter is that if you watched enough games at BU, which I didn't, but I know people that did, and if you watched enough of his tape, he is actually an average defender, which is more than okay considering he's so gifted offensively with the puck. But we won't go into the intricacies of it all. We'll just look at it from a macro perspective. Liam, with the puck, he's just a different animal. Like game after game, I don't think that there's is there a guy in the NHL that's like, I don't want to say more because I don't want to be a homer here, but I don't think there's no guy that really looks or skates like him.
No, I think like the only comparison, I don't even think this guy does the same things Hutson does, but it's Makar, right?
Or it's Quinn Hughes, but it's not the same at all.
I find Quinn Hughes is more reserved. Hutson he plays risky. But he's able to turn the small spaces into huge areas for the Canadiens to do and to work with. But the problem is when he has the puck and he's doing all this, all the other Habs players, I swear, they're just in awe. They just watch and they don't know what to do. And I feel like that was a big problem in both games these last few days. So he's just so mesmerizing to watch. When he has the puck, the Bell Center is going crazy. It's just crazy how much he can do with such little space. And the fact that he's just making superstar NHLers look like pylons on the ice. It's amazing.
It's ridiculous. I think like a lot, if you're not watching Habs games, I think a lot of people are getting like, NHL fans are getting really frustrated with the fact that this is all, Canadiens media sources are posting about the fact that Hutson is unbelievable with the puck, but like they want to show us a goal, like show us something that's not just him skating. But the truth is that he's actually, I don't know as of last night's game, but before that, he was ranked number 1 amongst NHL skaters in ozone possession time.
Oh, wow.
Which is a ridiculous stat. Like, and I saw the names on that list. Like, I forget the other names, but one of them was being Jack Hughes, and that doesn't surprise me, of course. But my point is that it's just, he's obviously waiting for the perfect opportunity, but he's creating chances for his teammates. And the truth is that if half the Habs players could actually bury the puck, I think Hutson would have a lot more assists right now. Like the truth is that when you're depending on guys like Anderson, who clearly doesn't have that finishing touch, or Dvorak or whatever, you're not going. It's like what we talked about last year with Slav at the beginning of the season, where he was playing with like Anderson and whatever, and Anderson just couldn't finish. And like, how many assists could he have had if Anderson was finishing those chances,
Yeah, he's just, it's ridiculous because every time he has the puck, someone else is open because he brings in all the defenders on him. It's like 3 guys will converge and then feeds it over to Newhook, who snipes it top shelf, like in the Ottawa game. So
he's actually playing chess and not checkers, and like that is the definition of Lane Hutson right now. It is fun to watch. The Bell Center, you know what? I'll say one thing. I hope I'm not being too harsh, but like, I know Habs fans are excited and whatever, and we were both there last night at the game, but I mean, Habs fans need to chill when he just touches the puck. Like, relax. Like, I know he touched the puck and he's behind the net and he's always gonna do something special, but like, can we, like just tone it down a bit? Like,
but it's crazy because whenever he does touch the puck, something exciting is gonna happen. No, whether it's him going down just him going down the wall, toe dragging, putting it through a couple of guys, and then just throwing the puck down low. Like, it's a smart play and it turns into a goal. Like, it's ridiculous. He should, yesterday, again, we're going to speak about the Penguins game, but he should have had like another 2 points minimum.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there was one rookie mistake that I thought he made where, the puck kind of popped out to the corner and the goalie was out of position and he just wired a slap shot. Like, that was him, I think, a little bit excited. But again, but see, the thing that I've realized with Hutson is Martin St. Louis as a coach, which I think he's done through 4 games, is going to continue to live with the mistakes that Hutson is going to make with the idea that there is so much upside on those plays. So you can't limit him in terms of creativity, because the second you take away Hutson's creativity or his ability to actually just go out and play freestyle hockey, Hutson is no longer the player that you drafted him to be, or the player that you saw be you. So you got to allow him to have that creative freedom, while also maybe sheltering him with, different D partners. He started with Savard. Last game, near the end of the game, he was playing with Gouli a bunch, which I love. I think that's an unreal pair personally. And we'll get into that game. And I know I keep saying we'll get into that game, but we'll get into that game. But I don't know. I mean, I think Hutson is the least of the Habs' concerns on the D-core right now, because although he might not be the best defender, he's probably one of the only guys that's contributing from an offensive standpoint. Or actually, I say that, but that's not even true right now. But anyway, do you have any last thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add in quickly. You mentioned Gouli and Hutson were together. They actually played the most time on ice together as a pairing compared to all the other pairings. So maybe that's the pairing of the future right there. And I think it does work, because Gouli has kind of found his offensive touch these last few games.
The quest for the Stanley Cup starts now. The puck's dropping on the 24-25 season. Get in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. The Montreal Canadiens are taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs Wednesday, October 9th in their home opener. I really don't think you guys want to miss out on a chance to get in on the action for that game. It should be a great one. And if you are new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
I'm reliable. He's so reliable.
Look, so let's get into that Pens game, because we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it right now. Habs lose 6-3 to the Pens, second loss of the season for the Canadiens, but it doesn't change the fact that there was a lot of positive in this game. I know in the last episode, more me than you, Liam, and I think we kind of got that criticism on YouTube and whatever. People, thought that I was whining a little bit. I think I was a little bit like, I think it was more just the fact that we recorded right after that loss, and I got really excited in the Bruins game when Galley scored that goal to make it a 1-goal game with 4 minutes left, and then Primo lets in that garbage goal, and I was like, oh, you know what? Like, frustrated. But that's the game of hockey, so I'm not going to read too much into it. But look, I'm not going to whine. The Habs lost 6-3. Funny enough, they put up 6 goals without Crosby getting a point. Crosby's still stuck at 1599 in terms of all-time points, and I'm surprised. It would have been pretty cool to see him score that in Montreal at the Bell Center. But nonetheless, they dropped this one. Monty has, I guess, his worst start of the season, but nonetheless still was solid enough until about 10 minutes left in the period. And we've talked about this. The Habs are not going to be the most effective or best defensive team. But the truth is that last night they played well defensively, except for the fact that they have lapses. They have lapses in their game, which I think is just natural from a young D-core. So we'll live with that. Any initial thoughts on the game?
I still think obviously Montembeault might have wanted to take back a couple of those goals from Eller, but I really do think he played an overall solid game again. And just if we're looking at some advanced stats, the Habs on moneypuck.com, we'll give a little shout out to them. They have this thing called the deserve to win-o-meter. And the Habs actually won that. So basically, they deserve to win the game over the Penguins. I don't know necessarily from what I saw if I agree with that in terms of the first period and maybe the tail end of the third. But the second period was definitely purely dominated by the Canadiens when they scored 3 of their 3 goals.
Yeah, and it's to me, it's actually funny, Liam, that they say that the Habs deserve to win that game, because they also hit 3 posts.
Yeah.
So
I think
again,
the
I
Penguins
know
did
obviously,
too, but
No, I'm saying the Pens hit 3 posts.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think the Habs hit any, but there was one that was from the point. Monty had no idea where the puck was, and there were a couple others in the end of the game when the Habs were kind of like really, really in desperation mode, cheating the zone and whatnot. But look, I mean, like overall, solid effort. They were down 2-0. They went up 3-2, and then they kind of collapsed. But we'll start it off with this game with the first topic being Emil Heineman. I didn't talk about it in the first game because he did score his first NHL goal in that game against the Sens. He makes it 2 goals in 2 games now for Emil Heineman with a beautiful shot in 2-on-1. He looks off the pass to Kapanen, absolutely rips it right over Jari's shoulder. No chance for him on that shot. And I'll tell you one thing, Liam, I think you and I have said this pretty consistently for the last few months. That is Pacioretty-esque. That was Pacioretty-esque. Like it was the deceptive shot, the strong shot, the accurate shot. His skating isn't unbelievable like Patch's choppy stride, but an effective stride. And I think Heineman now getting a more of a shot. Last night he was playing primarily with Dvorak and Kapanen, that mix of vet presence down the middle with the 2 young wingers. But here I'm going to talk about it right off the bat. So first I want to hear about what you thought of his performance. Secondly, I'm going to ask follow-up question right off the bat. Do you think that Heineman should get bumped up to that second line right wing spot instead of Armia?
Well, first, unreal game from Heineman. His shot is actually unreal. I think he skates pretty quickly, honestly. Maybe not the smoothest skater, but just a quick skater. Yeah, exactly. Effective skater. And that, again, his shot is unreal. But I was just going to bring up the fact, like, that second line is not producing. Get Armia off the line. He's not looked good at all. I don't know. Half the time he's just turning the puck over and skating back into his own zone with no effort. So I want Heineman on that line by next game. He deserves it after these 2 games. Even Kapanen's working harder than most of the guys on this team. So I'm taking Heineman on that second line next game. I'm tired of seeing this second line do nothing. I know Newhook scored, but again, that was set up by Hutson. I just don't see a reason why we're playing Joel Armia in 2024 on a second line with Kirby Dach and Alex Newhook. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
It makes 0 sense.
Again, I have the confidence in the coaching staff because they are playing Hutson at the right times. They put him on at the end for the 6-on-5 when we pulled the goalie. So I just don't see a reason why Heineman shouldn't get a chance after these 2 games. Like, what else does he have to do? And what does Armia not have to do to get kicked off this line? So I don't understand. I just don't get it.
I'm not really following. I understand that it's only been 4 games, so you're not necessarily going to jump the gun and, be like, just, you don't want to jump the gun and make decisions too quickly. But I also think that if you're Heineman, and I think we talked about this in the offseason too, Heineman's the type of player that there's literally no point of him being in an NHL lineup if he's not going to play a skill role. And if you're going to put him in a third line role, like I know they got that goal last night, but he's a skilled player with a very deceptive shot who can be a very good, like nothing's worked on that second line. I was just looking at it. They have 1.2 goals expected for through 4 games. So 1.2 expected goals. I don't even know if they have one. That's the first thing I'll say. But they have 1.2 expected, and they have 2.7 goals expected against. So again, read that what you will. I didn't look at the other lines in contrast, but all that's telling me is that they're technically they're just getting outplayed at 5-on-5 consistently through 4 games.
Yeah, so, and just to add on to that quickly, another stat just from last game, out of the 4 lines, they were the line with the least shot attempts for. They had 5 compared to the other lines, 12, 10, and 7. So clearly something isn't working. That's concerning. That is actually very concerning. Didn't think about that. Because the shot you need in the NHL and again, we always talk about the fact that if Laine were in the lineup, what would this look like? I know Laine is not necessarily, he's a complementary player. He's a great complementary piece. But right now, Armia is doing 0. He's not a complementary piece. He's not even, it doesn't even look like he's winning battles. Doesn't seem like he's working hard. And I just feel like at that point, Kirby Dach's game
revolves a lot around being able. Kirby Dach's not going to be the guy that takes it end to end with a shot, but he's going to be the guy to set up guys with his smarts. He's going to be the guy that passes off to this elite goal scorers. And look, like Newhook's just not doing it right now. He doesn't look incredible. It doesn't look like there's much chemistry between that line and specifically Dach and Newhook. And at that point, like, why not give Heineman a shot? I mean, he's an Armia. He's the same archetype as Armia, just with more skill.
Yeah, maybe a couple inches shorter. But I feel like the idea of putting Armia on that line was the fact that he's like the same build as Laine, but obviously they're not the same player. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading this wrong. Yeah, exactly.
And also, maybe do you think that there's the potential that, again, I know it's 4 games, but do you think that they're really trying to give Armia a shot in that top 6, maybe to build up his trade value come deadline? Because I know that's a player that, again, not that he's a phenomenal player, but it is a player that teams look to acquire for cheap at the deadline that can fill those spots in their middle to bottom 6. That's the only thing that can make sense to me right now. Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe that's what it is, but at the same time, last year he was on the third line, right, primarily throughout the season, and he still put up like 19 goals or whatever it was. So I just don't see. I don't see, what they're really gaining by putting him there, because obviously the Canadiens are starting to look more competitive, and having a second line that isn't producing at all isn't going to help you. So I'd rather have a competitive lineup than throwing Armia out there and the second line having 1 shot for last game. So I'd rather Heineman, and also just a quick stat, that Heineman Dvorak Kapanen line had an 86.6% goals expected. Or what was it here? Let me confirm that. Yeah, expected goals percentage. So that was the highest out of the 3 lines, and that's ridiculous. That's like insanely high. But interesting to see what 2 young guys are.
Well, that also begs the question, and not to go into it too much here, but it begs the question, well, if that line's playing well, do you break it up for the sake of improving, the second line? Which, if you look at time on ice from last game, and I'll pull it, well, actually I won't pull it up, but I'll just read it out. Armia played just shy of 13 minutes, but then you had Kirby Dach, who played just shy of 17 minutes. So, but that's also, he gets 2 minutes of power play time there. Then you have Heineman, who plays just shy of 12 minutes. So him and Armia are kind of neck and neck in terms of minutes there. Kapanen, 12 minutes. Newhook, just shy of 14 minutes. So clearly, even though there's that second and third line roles, the minutes from a 5-on-5 perspective are very, very even. So clearly in that game, specifically yesterday, Martin St. Louis said, hey, like, I'm getting more out of this, this Kapanen, Dvorak, Heineman line. They're my 2 right now. But the problem with that is that Dach can't be in a second/third role. I know he just played almost 16 minutes, or it's almost 17 minutes, but to me, that's not enough for Kirby Dach.
Yeah, maybe they're just starting to ease him in again, but it's like, it's not really just 16 minutes, like 16 unproductive minutes,
right?
Because Armia is on the line and they're not doing that much. So like, again, the time on ice between the second, third, and fourth line, just looking from yesterday's game, the difference between like 2 minutes. So again, it's pretty spread out. It's like you have your first line and then you're rolling 3 lines, but it's just the fact that they're not producing at all. And after a game like last game and the performance they had, I just feel like the change is necessary, even after considering that Heineman is playing so well.
Man. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. I believe in that strongly. I believe in, if this team wants to be anywhere near competitive and not finish, bottom 5 again, you're going to need to get secondary scoring. And by secondary scoring, I mean scoring from that second line semi-consistently. And right now, Kirby Dach has 1 assist in 4 games. He's a -4, and his only point came on the power play in game 1. So obviously, all this tells me, and what we've seen with him in the past, is that Kirby Dach is the type of player that makes players around him better. But with the caveat that Armia is not skilled enough to be in a second line role, and Newhook is fringe. So you're not doing him any favors right now. And I know that's just because the Habs are thin, but it doesn't change the fact that the approach should probably be, hey, we have a skilled guy in Heineman, a 22-year-old guy that realistically is not going back to Laval. Because if he, I'm not saying that his development is done, but right now I don't think that he benefits from playing in Laval all that much. So keep him up with the big squad, put him on a line with a player like Kirby Dach who has proven that he can produce with this Montreal Canadiens team, and see what they can do together. Because right now that second line is so stagnant, Liam, and I know we're kind of just being redundant and repeating ourselves, but it's like concerning because when we score 3 goals and we get nothing out of that second line, it begs the question, well, what happens if we did get an ounce of production from them,
Yeah. And I think one of the best things to look at right now is that the Canadiens are scoring. We beat the Leafs 1-0, but after that, we're scoring 3+ goals a game. And I think that's a huge improvement over the last few years. But that's just one thing I want to throw out there. Another thing I feel like we should talk about really quickly is the faceoffs. I just feel like it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. When Dvorak's on the ice in the defensive zone, can't win a draw for his life. When Dach is on the ice, it's a joke because he literally can't win. Looking at the stats right now, Dach is at an 18.8% faceoff win percentage.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it.
Yeah, like one guy who is doing decent. Like again, it's not great, but Jake Evans, I feel like his overall game has improved, and he's just a reliable 4th line guy. Whether that's
so reliable,
taking faceoffs, hitting, like he works hard. He's just a hard worker.
And he kills penalties. He's all over the ice. He's the gadget guy. He's the gadget guy of this Canadiens team, and you got to respect that. And I think that what you're going to get from him from a production standpoint. You're not going to get goals. You're not going to get assists. You're not going to get points, but you're going to get consistency. But when you have guys like, Dvorak, who has 1 year left at $4.5 million, when you have guys like Dach, who's a former 3rd overall pick, 23 years old, and you're expecting to get second line production from, and combined, you maybe have 2 or 3 points out of them through 4 games. It's questionable. It's questionable because the one thing that fans have preached for the last few years is, oh, well, look at this center core down the middle. Dvorak's a great 3rd line center. Oh, Dach is a more than capable second line guy. Suzuki, whatever, we'll go out of the conversation. My point is that, have we ever got any, like I was looking at the other day, Liam, through 5 seasons with with Arizona, but now known as Utah, Dvorak had 4 seasons of 15+ goals with Utah. I keep saying Utah, with Arizona. But the difference is that he obviously had a much bigger role on a bad Arizona team. But my point is he had 15 goals 4 times out of 5. And the one season where he didn't have 15 goals was because he missed 30+ games. In 3 seasons with the Canadiens, 2 seasons, and I think last season he just missed a bunch of times, so we'll leave that out. He's failed to eclipse more than 10 goals. He had one 11-goal season, one 10-goal season. My point is that it's just, and then you got Anderson. You throw him into the mix, the guy can't do anything.
Yeah, he honestly, you know what? I just want to see him get the puck in the corner. That's it. Like dump it in, get the puck, and
he's
turn
in his
it
own
into
head.
A chance.
Liam.
Like
He's in his own head.
I'm not expecting the point production anymore. I'm not expecting goals. Just someone who can drive a play and just get it into the offensive zone. I feel like that's now his role. But you know what? I got to say his penalty killing is solid. And the Canadiens' penalty kill has been very good. We're 6th in the NHL. I want to bring up the exact percentage here, but
and just out of curiosity, I'm gonna take a look for you. Do you know where they rank in terms of the power play in the league? Because you did say top 10 this year, correct?
Yeah. So quickly, PK 92.9. Yeah, 92.9%. 6th in the NHL. Power play tied for 15th.
Okay.
But let me bring this up. I need to get the exact number. Tied for 15th, but 23.5%. If they maintain that 23.5%, that is top 10 in the NHL by the end of the year.
Right. Naturally. So so look, I mean, like, I think we can all agree that obviously Kirby Dach on that power play makes a big difference. You add another component, another threat, and you said it best, in our preseason predictions that there is absolutely the potential. Like, that's a good power play.
But I think this isn't even the first unit. I think this is because the second unit is producing.
Right, has been actually producing. Right. Yeah. I mean, again, does that attest to the fact that Lane Hutson is just an absolute demon out there? I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, it absolutely does. But you also can't ignore the fact that the puck movement. I think that, you know what the difference is, Liam, is that I think that second unit, everyone knows their role. Like Lane Hutson is obviously going to be the quarterback, but gotta give a shout out to Gallagher, man. The guy just, you know what? I was talking about this with my friend yesterday, and he's, in my opinion, what he's changed in his game from last year to this year is that he's not just skating into the corner with the idea of skating as hard as he can to finish his check and then losing all his, you know, his energy and then not contributing in the actual play. He's conserving his energy this year. So far, he's been smarter. He's making solid decisions. He's not just turning over the puck. And I love that. I know we're paying him $6 million, and I know that sucks, but we have to bite the bullet and accept the fact that this is who Gallagher is and this is what he's going to do. And at least we're getting that out of him, right? So
that's his role. That's what he's got to do. And I think the board players, whether it's Newhook, Heineman, or Kapanen, I think they're all doing a great job as well. And they actually work the cross seam, which is something that I wish the first unit would do.
I'm curious as to why that's working and the first unit isn't. But but again, you know, talking about the one-timers, I would love to see Heineman in a one-timer position, because again, his shot is just absolutely ridiculous. Get him open, get him in space, give him time to let that puck go. Hutson will do it. I think it's just a matter of time. But now we're 4 games in. Matheson remains on the first power play unit. I think that for the foreseeable future, I think that that's okay. I'm not against that, because it is interesting to note that Hutson now 3 games in a row. I want to pull it up, but I know it was 2 games in a row, but now I think it's 3. Well, anyway, nonetheless, Hutson is averaging 21 minutes of ice time, and that's on the second power play. So that is a big deal. Like, that's a big deal for a young defenseman who's playing he's going into his 7th NHL game. Like, 21 minutes a game is no joke.
No, it's good. The trust in him is you know, it's continuing to increase. And I think he deserves to get all this ice time, considering how much offensive drive he brings to the Canadiens. And it's exactly what they need. So he deserves it. I want to give a quick shout out, couple mentions, because I feel like we should do our due diligence here. But Laval Rocket, Logan Mailloux, absolutely outstanding. And Phil Messar, you know, we've been a bit hard on Messar, but producing as well. One concerning guy, Josh Roy, 0 points in 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because last year he actually started the season. He started the season with very, very hot with Laval, and then that's the reason that he got called up. But looking at it now, obviously more of a slow start for him. I think he's probably a little bit more in his own head than anything. Joshua, like, he probably wasn't expecting to get cut from the Habs opening night roster. Sucks, but he's gonna have to prove why he deserves to come up, because right now the younger guys, like we mentioned, Kapanen and Heineman, there's no reason for them to leave right this second. But we put up on the board Logan Mailloux, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points, 2 games. Look, in my opinion, Logan Mailloux might be too good for the AHL, but I don't know if he's good enough for the NHL. It's that weird little gap.
Yeah,
and
I think it's just I think it's just a matter of time, though, before he comes up. If he continues to play like this, like he's 6'3" as well. I think Barron has been okay, but I think there's a world where Mailloux takes that spot relatively soon.
Well, let's transition to that conversation, because that's actually was our last topic on this game, because I think it's an interesting one to have, because for some reason this year I've been monitoring the Habs third pairing more than ever. I don't know why I'm so interested by that. And I think it's because I really want to see Jaden Struble in the lineup. Like, I don't know why I'm so big on him coming in for Xhekaj. But I'll tell you something, like, I've monitored it, and you were talking about Barron. There is the possibility that Mailloux could be switched in for Barron. There's 100%. But I will say something. Barron in the last few games has showed flashes to me where he's closing guys out on the boards. He's playing some solid defense, but he does have lapses in his game. He's making some mistakes that are just, you sit there and you're like, okay, that's elementary stuff. Like, you got better than that. But there are certain things where, he makes the right pinch, he makes the right closeout on a guy, he uses his stick, he has an active stick. Great. So that I can live with Barron being the third pair right D who provides the odd offense here and there. But I'm having a really hard time defending Xhekaj right now. I don't know about you, Liam, but decision-making standpoint, he's almost being over physical in the sense where he's trying to kill guys instead of actually playing the body and the puck. Like, he almost got caught because he tried to absolutely lay out a guy yesterday instead of actually just taking care of the situation at hand and taking care of what was in front of him, which was annoying to me. And I just think that he looks a little bit shaky. He's not playing with very much confidence. And if that's the case, then I'm very okay to say, okay, Xhekaj, take a seat for a couple games and let Struble, who we've seen in a decent sample size last year, play. So I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think it's more so he's been in the lineup because he has a role against these teams like Ottawa, Toronto, and Boston, just to bring that physical presence and more so of a role that the Canadiens can't be messed with in the sense. So just going back to the preseason when they got into it with Toronto and Ottawa, every single game they played against each other, I think Xhekaj comes into the lineup and he kind of comes in as a protection for some of the guys. So
I get that.
For the games coming up against LA and the Islanders, I don't think you need a guy like Xhekaj in the lineup because there isn't that. It won't be nearly as physical. Yeah, it won't be it's obviously the game is still physical, but it's not like the rivalry in the sense that these guys are going after each other. There's no. But
Liam, even last night against the Pens, it wasn't. I mean, yeah, there was a little bit of back and forth, but realistically speaking, if you're looking at creating your lineup for puck drop and saying if Xhekaj is going to be in the lineup, yes, first and foremost, he needs to be a reliable left defenseman partner on that third pairing. But if he's going to provide anything from a physicality standpoint, then great. But the truth is that against okay, sure, opening night against the Leafs where Ryan Reeves might try and disrupt the game. Okay, Boston, you have a couple guys in there that, they just play a physical brand of hockey. I get that. But at the end of the day, the third pairing is there to provide consistency and stability when you can't have your offensive defenseman or your first two pairings on the ice. And so far, there was one goal yesterday where Xhekaj looks lost in the D zone. And I love the guy. I think he's so fun. He's a fan favorite. I'm the biggest advocate for Arber Xhekaj being a Montreal Canadien. It just makes sense. But we also have to look at this from an objective standpoint and say, well, he's not playing well. So why are we consistently keeping him in and holding on to the dream that overnight he's just going to fix his defensive woes? That's not going to happen. And you have a guy sitting in the wings who's a young guy. He's proven, in my opinion, enough to sustain a third line lefty spot. And so far, he hasn't got that crack. He warmed up last night. He was in full uniform, Struble.
Yeah, so I think it's also it's a matter of time because I think the change defensively needs to happen considering we've given up so many goals. So I wouldn't be surprised. And I think I'd like to see Struble as well. I feel like he brings not the same aggression that Xhekaj does, but the same physical from a physical standpoint. He goes for the body every time. So
and he's right, and he's an unbelievable skater too.
Yeah,
an unbelievable skater for his size. He's very good, and I think that his decision making, he's proven that he could be a bit better. Anyway, I mean, look, I'm not going to harp on it too much. It's the third pairing. It's not the end all be all. I think that in the last couple games, they've tried to do some things where, they put, like you said, now we have Hutson and Gouli, and they have Savard with, is it Matheson? No. Or are they putting,
no,
putting him with Xhekaj a bit?
Yeah, it was Matheson and Barron for a bit and Xhekaj Savard.
Right. So look, I don't know what the goal of doing that is because you could make the case that it's, well, we like Hutson and Gouli together, or it could be the case, well, we're trying to find a partner for Xhekaj that makes him a little bit more stable and more consistent with his decision-making out there. Who knows what it is? But at the end of the day, you're going to have to really, take a look at this overall decor and say, we're obviously line mismatching to start the season, but is individually should Xhekaj be in the lineup? And my opinion right now is no. So that's where I stand.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that's a fair take. It's a fair take. Considering that, again, they've given up a lot of goals. Like, it just makes sense. And just the defensive breakdowns, there needs to be a change. Like, again, it's not the end of the world, but, you know, when Lars Eller is coming down and scoring 2 goals on you again, and Mark Kastelik, like, there's an issue.
That's kind of my point. And my point is that I never like to look at it. Like, I think that's a good way of looking at it because because like you mentioned at the top, the Canadiens are scoring goals, but they're giving up more. Like right now they're -1 in goal differential, which is obviously not bad to start the season, but it's concerning when, you know, you put up 4 against Boston, you put up 3 against Pittsburgh, and you lose both those games. 3 and 4 goals with Montembeault playing as well as he is should be good enough to win. I know in that one game it was Primo, but my point is that no matter who's in nets, 3 and 4 goals should be good enough to win a hockey game. And I mean, I guess this literally proves why the Habs won't be as good as we want them to be this year. It's because defensively they're young and they're not experienced, and you know they're gonna have defensive lapses. But I still think that there's ways to improve that by just making a couple simple line changes or bringing Mailloux up if you want, or putting Struble in the lineup. And I think that would make enough of a difference for now.
I can't disagree with you. I can't, and I think. Look, again, it's a matter of time before Mailloux comes up, and it's, you know, Reinbacker's coming, so maybe not this year, but they're going to improve defensively. I'm
no doubt.
I feel like that's how they're building their team at this point. Like it's starting from the back end.
Sorry, quick shout out also to Gouli, 4 points in 4 games. I know you said before offensively, you know, we're looking at, because Gouli in his career has never been known as the offensive guy. Because, you know, past couple seasons, 22 points, 18 points. I mean, look, he's on a point per game pace right now. Obviously, we're not going to jump the gun. But my point is that I think, hey, who knows? Maybe it's a deep pairing thing, and maybe he could get to 35, 40 point defenseman. And I think that was one of your hot takes too, correct?
Yeah, I said he was going to be an established first pairing D.
Right, and I think to get to that point too, I know it's not all about stats, but you know, to be like a Slavin, for example, where you get who's a 35, 40 point defenseman and defends really well, that's proof in the pudding.
Yeah,
that
even like a Gustav Forsling, like guys like that. So another thing, I just want to shout out the fact, like, you guys should watch our pregame TikToks giving some fast facts, because I think yesterday every single one of them hit, other than the Caufield and Hutson, but we can say that Hutson covered that based on his performance. But the power play converted, PK was solid, and unfortunately the Canadiens lost. But everything, you know, we're making some good content, so I feel like we have some good predictions sometimes.
I mean, I was also gonna just throw it up here quickly. Might as well while we're at the end of the episode here. If you guys are still with us, thank you so much. Was just gonna show the website quickly. So if you were interested in getting any content at all, this is, you know, we write blogs here and there, and then you can access all our YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. So we are really, really active in terms of that stuff. Liam mentioned our fast facts, which I think we're going to try and stay consistent with on a game-to-game basis, which will be really, really fun. And so I think we'll leave it at that, Liam. That was a fun episode. There was actually a lot to talk about, a lot to dissect. Just to take a quick look before we get going, the Habs are playing their next game against, I'm saying it slow because I don't know,
Kings.
The LA Kings at home on Thursday. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Thursday.
And then they are against the Islanders Saturday in Long Island. Yeah. And then followed by a game against the Rangers the Tuesday, the 22nd in Montreal. So that should be a good game. Hopefully we'll be back after the Saturday game or after the Rangers game. But nonetheless, it was fun to dissect those games, Liam. It'll be interesting to see where the Habs are at through 10 games. Continue to monitor that stuff. And that was episode 93. So we'll catch you guys next time. And thanks a lot for tuning in.